2020 just got a whole lot better. Yeah, that's right. Bet you never thought you'd hear anybody say that this year. Greetings, fellow Vita fans. This is James with PS Vita at 2 a.m. coming at you once again with another exciting video. And if you're new here and love everything PlayStation Vita, don't forget to subscribe. Was the last video that I made not good enough news for you? Well, if that be the case, we have more good news, good news, good news. Sandeep has finished his final Vita book, one that many of us in the community have been anticipating for a very long time. I mean, I literally dreamed about it every single night since I heard about it. Don't read too much into that. And at this point, if you've only recently joined up with this channel in the past few months, you may not be familiar with this whole situation. Sandeep is a very passionate individual when it comes to the PS Vita, and this is actually, believe it or not, his third book on the subject. Can the world actually take that much epicness? It's called PlayStation Vita: The End, and it covers everything from 2015 up to present time. The PS Vita's highs, its lows, Sony disappointing us on numerous occasions, it's all there. So you may want to have a few tissue papers on hand just in case, if you get my drift. Special thanks and shout out to Sandeep for sending me over these review copies. Oh, and be sure to tell me what you thought about this video and book down in the comments section below. Now, for me personally, this is probably my favorite of his 3 books, just for the sole fact that it covers everything regarding the PS Vita from 2015 and on, as I just said. And for me personally, this is what I consider its golden years. And it's all here, guys. He has some great stuff, including an article written by Colin Moriarty himself, and giving his thoughts on how he feels personally about the PlayStation Vita and his experiences with it. There was even a part here where he said, and I quote, "I think what's perhaps most special about the Vita is that it almost feels like a piece of forbidden knowledge. People either get it or they don't." And honestly, I couldn't agree with him more on the subject. And even has some very cool stories here regarding various devs having to use Kickstarter for the PS Vita because developing for Vita was a financial risk given the relatively small user base, I think, as we all know. And for better or worse, even though some of those Kickstarters didn't end up coming to fruition 100% as they could have been, they were still a necessity to making some Vita games happen in the end, even if some of them ended up not happening. And everything on this book is very well organized. For instance, in his introduction page, he has everything listed as follows. Forwarded by Colin Moriarty. Introduction. The story. Interview with Shahid. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name. Believe me, I'm saving pain from you and me both. Page 58, retrospectives, library, timeline, a thank you to all his Kickstarter backers, credits, and thanks. Now, if you're a Vita history buff, much like myself, you're probably going to find the story the most interesting part of his book, which is page 14 to 36, where I said he talks about Kickstarters, limited run games, and all of the other limited companies that were making the PlayStation Vita a very limited system to collect for. I remember those days. It got a lot of fans very hot-blooded. And there's one section I particularly enjoyed called Lookbooks, where it talks all about visual novels. Yeah, I'm assuming I'm probably one of the few that actually finds this part interesting, but it's really awesome if you love it as much as I do. I think we all know that after 2015, we started seeing more and more visual novels on the Vita. And he talks about some great ones here. Muv-Luv, the Danganronpa series, and even one of my favorite and underappreciated games, Valhalla, which is pronounced with a bunch of numbers for some reason. And I even learned some things that I didn't know about. For instance, in 2019, Rodaleka Games said that sales of Vita titles did not justify the cost and effort of porting, but they continued to release them anyway just because they were so passionate about the system. Man, that makes me miss them all the more. Well, better pull out some of those tissue papers I mentioned about earlier. And for you guys out there who are not into the official stuff when it comes to the Vita, he has a section which shocked me regarding hacking and how it opened up so many doors to our handheld, giving us the ability to overclock, for instance, expand the memory capabilities, or play all of our games on the PS Vita TV the way, well, Sony never intended, but it should have been intended. The book includes various retrospectives on games of Sandeep's choice. Though I will say, some of these retrospectives seem to come off more review-like than they did as retrospectives, but he does do a good job of talking about the influences and history of various games sprinkled in throughout the retrospectives. And towards the end of the book, he has a very nifty timeline talking about things that were happening on the Vita through various months in the year. And I know a lot of people are really gonna love this. He painstakingly goes through all of the digital releases that were released from 2015 all the way to current release of the book's publishing. He also has a list for all of the physical games that came out from 2015 to 2019, though I will say one thing that kind of struck me as weird. It seems to only cover physical releases that were released through retail, like brick and mortar stores, meaning that the likes of limited run games and Play Asia releases aren't on this list, and I found that to be kind of odd. Now for those of you who want even more Vita goodness, oh, and I know you're definitely out there, he has a separate magazine called Vedazine. Very clever. Where basically he talks about his 100 top favorite PS Vita games. Not a whole lot to say here. He just basically does short reviews for each game, explaining why he likes them as such. But it's definitely a great way to learn about more PlayStation Vita games that maybe you may not have known about. Now, as far as any negatives go for this book, they're very few and far between, and I feel like they're more nitpicky, but I feel like I should also say what they are. One, and this is a problem I had with some of the previous books, if you're from the likes of Asia or Japan, just keep in mind that these books are pretty much covering mostly the Western territory. He does occasionally talk about things that were going on in Japan, but for the most part, this is a history about the PlayStation Vita in North America and Europe, and other English-speaking territories. So if you're from Japan, and I know a good number of people who watch this channel are, this book might not be for you. Though I would still recommend it because, hey, it's still talking about the Vita, and it's a Vita book. How many times do we have a chance of owning something as epic as that? And then I guess second of all would be the omission from some of the limited run games and online distributors for physical releases of the Vita. At least when it comes to that end list. I found that so weird. But other than that, the book is very informative, well-paced, and gets directly to the point. And notice at the beginning of the video, I had mentioned that this was the third book that I'm reviewing here. Yep, there's two others. And here's what they look like. And if you're interested in purchasing any of these books, I will have a link down in the description below where you can do so. A special thanks and shout out to Sandeep for sending me these review copy books. It was a true pleasure reading them. And I have to implore you guys, please support him. We need more things like this in the community. But let me know what you think. Have you ever heard about these books before? Are you the proud owner of one already? What did you think about it? Tell me down in the comment section below. And as always, fellow Vita fans, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It really means a lot to me. Love you all, and I'll see you next time. This video has been brought to you in part by all of these wonderfully generous people who help make this content possible, including Jesus Hernandez, Silica, Burzin Mystery, Juan Hen Hermosillo, Eric DeWitt, Tasha Monty, Ronan Alganto, Matt Hargett, Gutter Drums, Himdall Imbert, Wendy K, David Ray, Phantom XRS, Saul Ramirez, Kyle Brooks, JR, E-Rock, Pierce Sterner, Adam Theory, Skull Shertugal TCG, Hero Acer, Adam Sondi, PS Vita S, Richard Cruz, Lori Sweeney, Jelle, Mario Cruz, Larry Anderson, BMF, Clayton Merlarkey, Joshua Williams, Jared Hado, Kevin Enright, Heston Joseph, Aaron Swanson, Rodrigo Vera, Makis Blob, B Mystery, Matt Fox, Reiko Star, Neo Arashi, and Milk Sama. If you would be interested in supporting the channel and seeing your name on this end screen here, or if you wish to remain anonymous, that can be provided too, then make sure to check the links down in the description below. I have various ways for you to do so down there. PS Vita Book, the only time in your life where you'll actually see me read something.